Hello, I'm going to be reading the first chapter of the Jamie Drake equation for you. So, chapter 1. You're supposed to start a story at the beginning, right? The thing is, knowing exactly when that is can be kind of difficult. I mean, I could start this story with how the solar system was formed about 4.5 billion years ago. That was when the centre of a huge cloud of gas and dust that was spinning in space got super hot and turned into a star. But this story really got started way before that. It's all about putting things in the right order. That's how the solar system got going after all. Once the sun was formed, all the rest of the dust and stuff got stuck together to make all the planets and moons. And since then, they've just kept spinning around the sun year after year. Some are a bit too close, like Venus, where it's a scorching 400 degrees in the shade, while others are not too far and freezing cold, like Saturn and Neptune. But out of all those planets, all those worlds, there's only one where we know that life exists, and that's our world, the planet Earth. That's because it's right in the middle of the Goldilocks zone. Now, this isn't like the Phantom Zone in Superman, some kind of interdimensional prison where the three bears have locked up Goldilocks for crimes against porridge. The Goldilocks zone is the name for the region of space around a star where life has a chance of existing. Somewhere not too hot and not too cold, but just right. And in our solar system, Earth has got this spot all to itself. It's a bit like my family, really. There's Mum, Dad, Charlie, and me, Jamie Drake. Dad's the star in our family's solar system because he's an astronaut. Everyone at school knows his name and he's been on TV loads of times talking about his latest space mission. He's kind of like Captain Kirk crossed with Han Solo, but cooler because he's a real person. To be fair, I reckon Mum's the star too because she keeps everything running smoothly when Dad's not around. So that just leaves Charlie and me in the Goldilocks zone. It used to be that I had this spot all to myself. Then 4 years ago, Mum and Dad told me that I was going to have a baby sister. At first, I wasn't too sure, but then Mum explained that tons of people think that the perfect family has 4 people in it. So by adding a little sister, our family was going to be just the right size. And when baby Charlotte was born, I kind of had to agree. Our family's solar system is now perfectly balanced. Mum plus Dad equals me plus Charlie. Now, if you move any part of the real solar system, then the whole thing goes to pieces with planets crashing into each other or flying off into the depth of space. Everything has to be in just the right place for the Earth to keep spinning safely around the sun. So with Dad now 400 kilometres above our heads on the International Space Station, I'm keeping a close eye on things at home in case any bits of the Drake family solar system starts to wobble. So far, everything's okay. In fact, Mum and Dad were arguing a lot before he blasted off into orbit, and I think having this break has just made them realise how much they love each other after all. And in 10 days' time, Dad will land safely back on Earth and our family can get back to normal. It's just a shame he's going to miss my birthday on Friday. That's the day of his spacewalk, the day the human race launches its first mission to the stars in search of alien life. I just hope he hasn't forgotten to get me a present. Right, that's the end of chapter 1.
So you've just heard the lovely Miss Cormack reading the first chapter of the Jamie Drake equation by Christopher Edge. So I've got 2 questions for you today. The first question is, what are your first impressions of the book? You can think about the book talk that we normally use. So did you like it, the first chapter? Did you not like it? Why not? Does it remind you of anything? Are there any links you can make? And are there any questions that you've got? So your first piece of writing is to tell me about your first impressions of the book. So I'm expecting again about a paragraph, so 3 or 4 sentences at least about the book, and I'll model that in a minute. And then your second question is, what do you think the plot of the book will be? What do you think might happen to Jamie? What might happen to Dad? What might happen? Who knows? What do you think? So again, I want you to write a paragraph, 3 or 4 sentences at least, with what you think the plot might be for the Jamie Drake equation. Right, so I'm going to think about my first question. What are your first impressions of the book? And I always think first about books that it reminds me of It might remind you of the Tom Gates books because it's again about a boy. Tom Gates is written in the first person, but Jamie Drake's written in the third person. But it's still a story, isn't it? It's telling you about that character, a boy, and it's telling you about what he gets up to. So there's a bit of a link there with this. But also, I thought about Bob, the man on the moon. I think I read this to you right away back in September. And it reminds me of this because Bob works in space. So that reminds me of Jamie Drake. So I'm going to write my first paragraph. Again, I'll start you off, but I want you to do more. So you could start your paragraph saying, my first impressions. And I think it's going to be enjoyable. My first impressions are that this book is going to be very enjoyable. And then you could carry on. It reminds me of. And what it reminds you of. For me, it might be Bob Man on the Moon, I think it's called. Bob Man on the Moon. Then you can carry on. What do you like so far about the first chapter? Do you like the way it's written in the third person, different from the Tom Gates book? Is there anything you didn't like about it? Are there any questions you've got from your first impressions? So those, again, so I've started for you, you can carry on. So the second question is, what do you think the plot of the book will be? Again, this is going to be a new paragraph. What do you think? There's no right or wrong answers. All you've had is the teaser of the first chapter. So I know that in stories, something usually goes wrong. We know our story mountain. There's a beginning, there's characters, there's a setting. Something often goes wrong. Sometimes that then gets resolved, and then there's the end. So I think the plot. I think the plot is going to involve something. Oh, there we go. Something going wrong. And then again, you can carry on. What do you think might go wrong? Something might go wrong for Jamie, something might go wrong for his dad, it might be for his family, but you can carry on a paragraph. And they should all be different. What do you think the plot of the story? Where do you think this story is going to go? I look forward to seeing what you think is going to happen.